Welcome to Chamber Ensemble, Spring Quarter 2020 version. I'm today going to try to explain to you some of the discoveries that we've made moving Chamber Ensemble to an online format, some of the things that we decided would be possible to do and some that turned out to be impossible, and kind of walking you through the course the way I've set it up after the first week of experimentation. During that first week, it became quite clear that it was going to be almost impossible to, well, no, let me go back. It's going to be totally impossible to do synchronous work online, actually singing as we would have sung in 1569 at the MAC in the rehearsal hall, where we are all gathered around a piano and actually singing. That was not going to be feasible simply because of the time lag between the signal leaving my little studio here at home and arriving in the various venues where the students were located, using various devices on bandwidth, Wi-Fi bandwidth of varying sizes and speed. And we had, even though the delays were very short, usually in the neighborhood of a second, 2 seconds, or probably even microseconds, if you could measure them that way. The result was kind of a cacophonous sound with everyone singing at different times. And we tried a couple of things. We tried all week to find solutions to the problem, but basically we're unsuccessful. So at the end of week one, on Thursday, we meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between 12 and noon. On Thursday, I told the students, I asked them to give me the weekend to reconceptualize this course now that we had 1 week of experience together and meeting together as a group. And I said, likely we're going into one-on-one sessions between you and me. And I think that's what we came up with. And so far it's been working quite well. We divided the course into what I would refer to as typical academic work, not something that we regularly do in Chamber Ensemble since we're primarily a performance group, but we added that dimension for this particular quarter, given our restrictions and our necessity of being online. And so we have an academic portion with a weekly assignment. We are studying rhythm this year. We are using exercises from Samuel Adler's Sight Singing Book, edition 2, focusing on rhythm. I hope this image is not backwards for you, but if it is, you'll have to deal with it. And we are also learning some what I would call rhythmically interesting pieces. Ralph Hunter's 5 nursery rhymes that the Chamber Ensemble, actually the first year that I was with the Chamber Ensemble, the ensemble performed these 5 nursery rhymes at the spring concert. They're lots of fun to sing and they're interesting. They're relatively contemporary and extremely imaginative. They were published in 1954, give you an idea of the time frame. And Ralph Hunter, a great American composer, arranger, and choral conductor, spent most of his life in New York City, teaching at Hunter College, the City University of New York, and performing and directing some big choral choirs in New York City during his prime. So with those documents as the source of our written work and our performance work, we began the studying rhythm. And basically I want to share my screen with you to show you a few things. Number one, I give you an idea of how the course was actually set up. I'm going to go to Canvas and over to the calendar. And you can see, if we look at, this is one section of the Chamber Ensemble. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have individual meetings. We meet for an hour between 12 and 1. And so that gives us a possibility for 3 meetings with students that are sometimes 20 minutes in length, sometimes a little bit longer. But basically, you can see we are meeting together just one-on-one to work on our assignments. Then on Friday, we have what I call an office hour between 12 and 1. And at that point, students can drop in if they're having particularly difficulties with anything that we have been studying during the week. That's a time for extra help and questions and getting them back on track if they're lost or confused. There is a weekly assignment, which I'll show you in a minute, how those are organized. Basically, the assignment goes up on the internet on Saturday and it's due the following Friday. It's kind of a busy week when I add the second section of the choir and also some additional students who are helping us out. It gets to be quite a busy time. Let me reduce there so that we can see a little bit better. Basically, I want to take you to Music 170, section 2814. One of the sections show you some of the exercises that are put up in the module that all the students can access. This is an example of one of the metric meter exercises, common meter, simple common meter, duple time, that we have been studying. It's very basic at the beginning, but I thought probably starting at the beginning would be a very good idea. My problem with a lot of the choirs that I direct and a lot of the really great efforts that very qualified and excellent singers make, even at the college, there may not be very much technical background behind them. They love to sing, they have beautiful voices, but there are many who can't tell a quarter note from an eighth rest. And so going back to the very beginning, during this special time that we have during the spring quarter seemed like a really good idea. The way the Adler workbook is designed, there's always a very clear explanation at the beginning of every set of exercises. Some preparatory exercises that I will do with the student when we have our one-on-one sessions. And then the basis of their homework begins at regular exercises. And what we are learning to do here is simply how to chant, number one, interpret different meters, and how to chant the rhythms, how to chant a series of 4 eighth notes in a 2/4 bar. And basically it's using our old favorite syllables, 1 and 2 and 1, 2 and 1, as easy as that. We have them maintaining the meter with a finger snap so they physically feel what the meter means in terms of how the measure of music is organized. We have a metronome going at all times so that they can maintain a consistent tempo when they are learning to chant the rhythms on the page. And we start off frequently with a practice tempo, which is a lot slower. And little by little, they work themselves up into a quicker tempo as quickly as they are able to recite the rhythms or chant the rhythms without making a mistake. In the regular exercises, of course, our gradual complexity is introduced by the time we get to 16th notes and ultimately into 32nd notes. And also other forms of duple meter are introduced, like a 2/2 bar where we're beating half notes rather than quarter notes, and 2 eighth notes rather than half notes or quarter notes. So a lot of students find it very difficult to make the transition between a measure that's organized according to quarter note beats into a half note beat or an eighth note beat. It's a very confusing transition. Once the system is understood, the scanning system, it becomes a lot simpler for them to do. So that when they encounter something that looks rhythmically complex on the page and may not be, they have a way to approach it and to figure out exactly how the rhythm and the meter of that particular measure that they're looking at can be chanted. So we're right now on simple duple meter. We're going into triple meter soon, and the Adler book also goes into compound meter and some very difficult rhythmic exercises. We'll see how far we can get with this, and so far it's going very smoothly. The other thing that we look at, let me show you an assignment, hypothetical assignment, not a hypothetical, an actual assignment. This is this week's assignment. Let me pull it up. So a fairly detailed organization of what exactly they are to do at home while they're working, and practicing their scanning out loud at various metronome speeds. And also there is a practice log that they have to fill out. And I'm going to show that to you. The practice log, which I'm bringing up now. Hello. There we are, is a simple Word doc, and it's an elaboration for singers based on a practice log authored by Jewel, which he uses, I believe, for his ukulele ensemble. I took a little bit of time and automated a bit of, notice that there are four sections, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and the students are to keep these logs. I tried to simplify, make them a little bit easier to use, simply by adding some, it's a template actually, and it can be, oh, great. It's always the case the one you're showing doesn't work. That's great. At any rate, to keep it simple, like there are drop-down menus to fill in the different times, and there's a drop-down calendar. I try to make it easy so it's not an onerous sort of task for them to fill in the practice logs, and then they're converted to a PDF file and uploaded to me at my college email so that I can verify the time that's been put in. It helps keep the students a little bit organized and have the discipline of actually spending some time, maximum usually of 30 minutes per day, actually working on these exercises, and they can track their progress as they go along. So that's that. I'm still trying to get one of these practice logs to work. Ah, there we are. So just to show you that they can be filled in online and saved as a PDF. And I did as many drop-down menus on them as possible. Some of these, like for filling in the number of minutes, so that you can work through them actually very quickly, identifying a specific problem they're having with a particular rhythmic figure, and spending a certain amount of time practicing. It's a good kind of review on how the homework actually went. The second, and probably the most time-consuming thing that needs to be done, is moving the actual printed score into a digital format. And I hope you can see at this point, this is a Sibelius file. Sibelius is the music notation software that I'm used to using and have been using for a number of years. Finale is the other big music publishing software, and they're both wonderful programs. It's kind of like, which one do you prefer, a PC or a Mac? I've always found Sibelius to be a little bit easier to work with. So what I have to do is to take the actual score and put it in digital form into Sibelius. And it's a little bit time consuming. Actually, it's quite time consuming depending upon the pieces you're working on and the complexity of the piece. But music is in usually closed system, and I need to expand the system so that each open score, so that each vocal line has its own separate line, because one of my jobs at this point, once I get this is the first of the nursery rhymes into, once I get this into Sibelius, I have to begin to export the soprano line or the tenor line or the bass line, alto line. I have to be able to export each one of these lines in different formats that the students can use to practice with at home. And so that's what I do in Sibelius, and I'll show you if I go back into Canvas and open up the modules, I can show you some of the tracks that are created, the exports from Sibelius. I'm going to stick with the bass track since I'm a bass, and we may as well maintain some kind of consistency throughout this exercise. The first kind of file that I export, the first format that I export from Sibelius is a PDF of the actual part that our basses are going to be working with. And it's very much like an orchestral part at this point. It has simply their part. And this is one of the other things that we practice chanting and scanning in our one-on-one sessions. And they work on this at home so they can scan the rhythms precisely at varying tempos. Notice this is 110 to the quarter, which is fairly bright. So they'll start at a much slower tempo, and I ask them not to use the words to begin with, but to chant on the 1 and 2 and 3, and so that they're learning how to actually audibly scan a rhythmic figure. So that is the next step in their process, and they can download these PDFs from Canvas and work with them at home. Usually they are marking principal beats and then scanning audibly the rhythmic figures. And when we get together in our individual meetings, we do that together so I can monitor their progress in this particular endeavor. Going back to the modules, also in the modules, I have a practice track, which we haven't been, you can see I've unpublished. These are not published yet, but they're ready to go. If I pull the click track up, it's basically their part, but there's a click track, and you can hear that now, I think. And their part is played on the piano. This will help them reinforce the melody that they have learned to sing without reference to a recording. This is the process of beginning to actually look at their part and hear the pitches with rhythm and maintaining a specific tempo. This particular track is at practice tempo. They can speed that up at a certain point while they're practicing. Going back to modules, so the preparation of all these different formats is somewhat time consuming, although once you have that score into Sibelius, it's really quite easy to export in different formats. The last section of the work that they do is with our new Vocaloid program. And I want to give the IT department and the music department and the college a big shout out and thank you for purchasing a copy of Vocaloid that we can use. Vocaloid is where the piano tracks become actual vocal tracks. And I'm going to show you Vocaloid and how it works. So let me, and I think we're recording again. So this is what the Vocaloid program looks like. It is from Japan. And I think they use Vocaloid in Japan for creating a lot of their anime, their cartoonish type films and whatnot. We're using it, we've been using it in the Apollo Club for quite some time to help our singers, most of whom do not read music, do that parrot thing and learn it by listening and repeating. One of the files that I will export from Sibelius is a WAV file, which can be just dragged and dropped right into the Vocaloid program, so that I have my click track and piano track ready to go. And that's this one here. And it sounds like this. So that is the piano track of the first of 5 nursery rhymes, Humpty Dumpty. Then another format is the MIDI file, that I export a MIDI file of the bass part, for instance, and Vocaloid can read and import that particular file format. So I not only have my piano track with the click track up here, but I also have a vocal track. And there is pretty interesting, you can take a look at what the Vocaloid track looks like. This is the melody, this orange line that goes through here. And you can see the little keyboard. I don't actually use the keyboard, but every note or pitch that's sounded is played on the keyboard, so you get a visual reference. We have a voice bank. I think we have 5 or 6 different options for picking voices, some of them better than others. A lot of the voice tracks in our voice bank in these 2 files, the singers have very heavy Japanese accents, which is typically, I think, where they started with this program. And of course, what is most useful to, obviously, to people in Japan creating soundtracks for film. So we have those options there, but again, breaking into the English market, we have Amy, Chris, and Cyber Songman. Amy's voice is very good for the soprano and alto. Chris, very good for the tenors. And Cyber Songman for the basses really works quite well. We also have a style bank, which is huge. So you can select your voice category, the actual sound that you want to use, and different types, different colors, and different styles. As I said, we have used Cyber Songman for the track that I'm going to play for you right now. I want to get back to this and this screen. So after you import the MIDI file with the melody attached to it, then you have to go in and add the lyrics for each note.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
Okay, and once you have that, all of that information into the program, then students will be able to play the Vocaloid track and sing along with it. So that reinforces, they've got the meter down and the metric variations down, and they have the rhythm down, and they're understanding how to hold tempo. They have learned their pitches, and they have practiced their pitches with the piano track. And now we add the lyric, and so they have actually a Vocaloid track to work with to perfect their performance. I'll play a little bit of the 2 tracks together. I guess I've unmuted them both. So here's what that sounds like.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty. All the king's horses and the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again.
So that's what the Vocaloid track sounds like, a totally synthesized sound, but again, it's simply for practice, and it serves that purpose quite well. So just in summary, we've added some academic work. I'm undoubtedly, because Ralph Hunter is a very interesting character, I'm very likely going to assign a brief paper for students to write on Ralph Hunter, on his career and his contribution to choral music. A little bit hard to find reference material for him, but it is out there. So I'll probably add that to the actual exercises of learning how to chant and scan rhythms. And the idea with, once we get all of the students through the process of learning one of these tunes, all the way from the study of the little black dots on the paper, all the way to the Vocaloid track where they're actually singing with the track and performing. The idea would be, in the best of all possible worlds, to be able to assemble at the college, provided, of course, that our restrictions on social distancing and public gatherings are relaxed or lifted a little bit as we approach the end of the quarter. It would be wonderful if we could get our 12 singers into 1569 around the piano for some rehearsal time, and then get them into the recording studio to work with the audio tech students in actually producing a recording of the 5 nursery rhymes. Whether or not, as I said, that is in the best of all possible worlds. I believe it's highly unlikely that we will be able to get together like that for the balance of the quarter. So the second option there would be to provide a standard click track and accompaniment, which we will have prepared on our way through this process, provide that to each one of the students and to have them work with that and record their parts on their own at home. And then we would take those files, upload them, and send them over to the students in the audio tech program to create a mashup of all 12 voices and an actual performance track of the 5 nursery rhymes. This kind of thing is being done frequently online with groups a lot larger than 12. I know that as a feasibility. Whether or not it can work into the curriculum of the audio tech classes is a little bit hard to say. But just going through this process, one of the real pluses is for future work when we're back on campus. I've often felt there's a bit of a disconnect between what students in audio technology are doing and what students in performance are doing. This is would be a wonderful way to do a joint project once a quarter, or maybe once an academic year, to do a joint project, recording project that would start using some of this technology and bring the audio tech students into collaborating in a live situation in our recording studio, which is a state-of-the-art facility up there, into the recording studio to actually create recordings of some of the work the chamber ensemble is doing. So that would be the ultimate plan, either plan A, plan B, do it live or do it as a mashup. We'll have to see how it goes. And that's about all I have to tell you this time around. I hope you're all well and safe, and looking forward to seeing you all again, not over the computer, but in the flesh, so to speak. It'll be great when we're all back together. So have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this, and bye for now.